Huzzah for the tipper, baby! And greetings to Her Majesty, Miss Seana Kofoed, who is here for this after show of American Princess on AfterBuzz TV, coming up right now.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
We're just dancing to him.
Yeah, there wasn't even music yet. We're already dancing.
We're all so hyped today.
Huzzah!
I was like, we were dancing to imaginary music for a second.
It's in my head.
Welcome, everybody. This is AfterBuzz TV and the American Princess. Whose show is on? I mean, turn it down. This is AfterBuzz TV and the American Princess After Show. We are going to recap episode Why? What is it called? Why Are You Romeo? Episode 4. But until we get to that, I want to acknowledge our special guest in the house, Miss Seana Kofoed, a.k.a. Maggie the Queen.
All hail the queen!
Yes. I was saying off camera, I am so obsessed with you on the show. Obsessed with you.
Happy.
Hey! Why am I just dancing? Like, what is wrong?
It's a dance.
We've got the queen energy. That's
We got
why.
the queen energy. But before we get into the conversation, let's introduce ourselves so that everybody listening and watching knows who we are. I am the moderator, Carla Renata, and sitting next to me is...
I'm Kelsey Hightower. Sit next to me.
Hi guys, Haley J.
And I'm Taylor Gates.
Cool. Now that we know who everybody is, let's get into the conversation.
We're ready.
Ooh, honey. Now, the episode, we found out at the end of the episode why it was called what it was, because I was like, throughout the episode as it was going on, I'm like, well, who is the damn Romeo? I can't figure this out. Like, who is Romeo? And then we found out that it's not who the Romeo is, it's where, what did he say?
Why?
No, why is, the title was Why Are You Romeo? But at the end of the episode, he said, let me find it. He said, why? He said,
Because
why?
they're talking about
Where
art thou Romeo?
That's it. Where art thou, Romeo? So it's not really why are you Romeo?
No, it's opposite. He was saying everyone, right? He was saying everyone thinks it's where is Romeo, but no one would think it's why.
Okay,
right.
see, that's why
You
y'all are
had
here.
it right.
I
The
had
whole
it right.
time.
I had it right, and
Yes.
okay, so I messed it up.
You're arguing against yourself.
I just messed it up.
We
I
need
was
to
like,
brush up on our Shakespeare, guys.
I know, just wrong. Really got to do that. But throughout the course of the show, if you're joining us for the first time, this is what's going to go down. We're going to talk to Miss Seana. We're going to have a millennial moment for my girl Kelsey. We're going to have some news with Miss Haley. And then we're going to have some shout outs in the YouTube chat room by Miss Taylor. Let's shout some people out, shall we?
Absolutely. Let's do that. Okay,
Yeah.
so last week we actually had a couple of awesome comments. Guys, leave the comments after if it's like too late in your time zone, whatever. Definitely leave a comment, even if you're not in the live chat. We had some great people in there. We had John Sherman, who's actually a writer on the show, so thank you so much for watching.
Okay, John Sherman.
Yes, so exciting. He schooled us about the difference between medieval versus Elizabethan like Renaissance periods, which is very cool. So
Well, all right then. I'm going to take a sip on that.
yeah, we just keep on learning, which is awesome. And Eileen Sullivan, who has actually been to a Renaissance Fair, she said in the comments. So thank you guys so much for tuning in and letting us know that you love the show as much as we do.
Yeah, and who do we have in the chat room right now?
We have a lot of people. We have Lorraine Rosenberg. We have Kimmy Sylvester. Yeah, those are the two main people. So you guys keep joining if you're here. And Kimmy and Lorraine, thank you for being part of the conversation.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much for joining us. All right, but before we get into our overall thoughts about this episode, let's talk to Miss Seana for a second. So I did a little research on you, as you know, I should, because that's my job.
Because it's my job.
That's my job. And I found out that I was so fascinated with the fact that the Queen's English comes so easy to you, and then I realized why, because you studied at the Royal
You're
Theatre.
like, oh, she's just affected.
Oh, no, I was like, oh, she's real effective. But no, you studied at the Royal National Theatre. How did you end up over there studying?
It was a summer program, so it was just a couple months jammed in, and I had some great teachers, and it was sort of a semester during college year. So I was at Northwestern, and then I went abroad for a little summer and into the fall, and then back.
Did you find there was any difference in the way, because I think there's a big difference in the way they teach you the classics here as opposed to how they teach you over there?
It's great. It's great. I mean, I feel like we have good training, and more the contemporary playwrights, but there's nobody like the Brits to teach. The Brits, I'm sorry, but it's true. I mean, even just the technique of it, the rhythmic, the iambic pentameter, all that stuff. They sort of give you that structure and they drill it into you, and then you can layer everything else on top of it.
Girl, you layer wonderfully. How did you end up getting this role? I'm fascinated with how you got this role.
Oh, it was just these women and men. Because Jenji Cohan, she and Tara Herman, Mark Burley, her producers, and Jen Houston, who's her main casting director, they always populate their worlds with people who look like human beings. So a lot of times as an actor, you're walking into a room thinking like, I'm not as pretty as all the people that are going to be seeing for this. I'm not as young. I'm not as whatever. Because it's the experience we often have with execs.
Mm-hmm.
But this is not that world. Genji does not run that kind of world. And Jamie Dembo's an amazing human being, and she created the show. And so you walk in on a sort of level playing field knowing that if you're the right actor for the role, your chances are pretty good at getting it. So it takes all the extra pressure off because you're just going in as you as opposed to you trying to be like your prettiest self, which...
Because I was going to say, because, here in L.A., when people... I'm an actress as well, and we actually have something in common. You and I both have worked with Matthew Broderick.
Oh, I love him.
I know. I love Matthew. But as an act, and we also have this in common. We're both from the Midwest. You're from Illinois. I'm from Missouri. So there you have it.
Yeah, and you're
Indiana.
over here.
Yeah.
Little
Midwest
spot.
in the house.
Love it.
But this is what I was going to say. As an actress, I found that being an actress in New York is very different than being an actress here. Like, when you go to audition for stuff in New York, you just go, like, I could literally go to an audition like this and audition for the Queen and nobody would care.
Absolutely.
But here in LA, it'll say auditioning for Queen Elizabeth and folk will come dressed as Queen Elizabeth.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely. I borrowed my daughter's tutu, which I did wear around my neck.
That's amazing.
I was
you
like, well,
really?
finally someone's
Your
wearing the damn
costumes
thing.
are amazing. I'm always looking at all the details, but thinking,
oh my
does
God.
that get really hot?
Yes, but it's worth it. It's amazing. Beth Morgan, who's the designer, and her whole team, it's killer. And I'm sort of like a stumbler, and I like bump into doorways. And this dress is so heavy that it just sort of keeps me moving like on a level plane. You know what I mean?
it makes you
my
keep that
gosh.
posture straight.
Let's go back. Let's revisit. You showed up to the audition wearing your daughter's tutu around your neck.
Right?
Yes.
You
My
tried to
nod
gloss
to the
over that.
queen.
That was
I
pretty
drove
creative.
over it too, and I was like, yes, it's true.
Owned that from the way. So you were saying that it feels different. It felt different auditioning. Did you feel that like walking into the room like the first time you auditioned?
Yes, and I had done a pilot with Genji and that same producing team before.
Oh, okay. So
and
y'all
I
had history.
knew, there was history there, and they're just like, they're humanists.
Do you feel more comfortable because you had that past experience with her?
I did, and I knew that the first time had been a nice experience, and I knew that I had been viewed as an actor, not as,
Right.
you know what I mean, all the other things.
That's
we
great
get
because
viewed as.
even if the role didn't work out, just having that experience be positive makes you want to keep going and working with a team that genuinely cares.
Absolutely. You just feel like the playing field is level, and it's a supportive and kind room with people who like respect one another. And
That's
And
what
I
you want to
think-
hear.
It's great.
You
Yeah.
know, about auditions and stuff, because it's such a scary thing, and it's so refreshing to just hear that you're like, I was comfortable. I could just go in and feel comfortable being myself, wearing my daughter's tutu.
And I think now more than ever, we want to see all different types of people represented. So the fact that you didn't feel like you had to put on this LA persona and you could be yourself and you see all different types of people, I think that's why as an audience, we love this show because it does have that authenticity of real people.
Of people that look like human beings, that look like you and me and our neighbors, and all of their shows do that. And I think that's what makes them more accessible and engaging, and they reflect the world around us. Like
There's a
Orange is the New
comfort
Black,
there.
Weeds, all those, yeah.
Absolutely. Lorraine in the chat room said that she really appreciates the costumes are actually quite accurately constructed.
Yes.
So, yay for the
I
costumes.
think we know. Lorraine, she has done some time in the Ren Fairs, so she would know. She would.
That is pure comedy. I also want to ask you about this. You got a drama desk nomination because you're a theater doll too.
Yeah.
So you got a drama desk nomination for was this a show you created?
No, it's a Sheila Stevenson play that Experiment with an Air Pump. She's this amazing British playwright, and I played a Scottish maid with a sort of a hunchback.
Oh my gosh,
Scottish
the
maid.
range.
Like,
Like, I love how you're Scottish in one thing. You're
I
like
know.
very
You're British in
Victorian.
another.
Like a hunchback, and you're like
I
a
know.
ballerina pose in like this show, like the range.
Add it to the resume.
That is pure comedy. All right, so let's start talking about a little bit about the episode, shall we?
Oh, so good. Such a good episode.
Yes.
I'm excited.
Yes. So let's just, first of all, every episode, I'm that chick that's like catching all the little dialogue, colloquialisms.
are.
I'm that girl because I will laugh out. Well, you heard me. I will laugh out loud and be talking to the screen like I'm at home by myself. It's so sad. But
No, it's good. It's good commentary.
It's so sad. But I love the fact that when we found out that Delilah had a son,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
see
then
that
he
coming.
decided he was going to name himself Fartbox.
Okay, to be fair, the kind of names they have on the show, I'm like, that seems
That
reasonable.
would be fitting. That would be fitting.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
It was pure comedy. And then I loved how we watched Amanda trying to get into the groove of the Huzzah thing and everything. She starts talking and she starts saying Kate Blanchett, like that's going to help her get that accent a little better. That made me laugh out loud. It was funny. It was really funny. And then what I really loved is when Brian came in with you and you're like, you missed the Stanislavski warm-up. And then y'all start doing a full-on ballet bar. And
Sweet boy lifted me so many times.
Oh, really?
I was like, oh God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. He's like,
So did y'all, was that improv or was that in the script?
we sort of worked it out the day before. I think the warm-up was in the script, and then we were like, should we figure something out?
That is hilarious. I love that y'all did that zip zap zop thing.
Right? How much do we love
do y'all know
zip
about
zap?
zip zap zop?
Not
Okay,
really.
so let me teach y'all how to do zip zap zop real quick. So this is what happens. Zip zap zop is a improv exercise to help get you in the present. Because a lot of times as actors, the longer you do a production, you kind of just get complacent and you check out and you just kind of wait for your cue line to say your next word or sentence or monologue or whatever it is. So zip zap zop keeps you in the present. So what happens is if I go to you and I go zip,
Do I say zap?
yeah, if you
But
want,
to anyone
Oh.
in the room.
but you to anyone in the
Oh.
room, and then they have to do it to someone else. But whoever screws up, then you're out.
I'd be so bad at
So
it.
it's zip, zap, zop?
Zip zap zop, and you
Okay.
have to say exactly what the person just said to you, and or you can change it. But if you change it, like if I say zip to her and then she looks at you and she
Zap.
says zap, you have to say zap unless you change it and you say zop to somebody else. But whoever the person is that doesn't catch on real quick, they're out.
Did you get that?
I'm already terrified. I
I
know
know.
this
Are we
game, but
doing
I
this?
think you'd play a more advanced version.
The whole
me?
like changing it up
No.
thing gets me. That's
Yeah.
what
Okay.
Zip,
I'm gonna
zap.
practice.
Okay, can we do like
I-
a rehearsal real quick?
I'll have me, Kelsey, and Shauna will do it.
Okay.
So zip,
Watch.
Zap.
Zop.
Zip.
zip.
See?
I messed up. You see
So
what I
you
mean?
did zip, zip? Because you did it.
I always thought it was zip, zap, zop, zip, zap, zop.
Yeah, no, girl. I forget the director that taught us how to do it, but it was intense. And sometimes in this was the first thing we would do in rehearsals when we would start a show. We would do this exercise, and it would be first thing in the morning, like right after
exhausted
child.
people.
And
Oh,
we'd spend
no.
15 minutes doing that, and I would be mentally exhausted. I'm like, I need a nap.
And then it's time to start working right after that, huh?
It's hilarious.
funny.
All right. So now that we had that little game, go
know,
ahead.
that
What were
was
you gonna say?
good.
Something?
Okay, so you said that you rehearsed it a little bit before, but you did a lot of takes on this probably. So did you keep it consistent every time?
The mini dance number,
Yeah.
we did.
Okay.
We did. Yes.
Everything else, like the mirroring and
The
everything, is
mirroring
that?
we were able to play with.
Okay.
Like I think we had the general shape of that, but then the tiny little lift and dance
that
was the
had
same
to
every
be
time.
on point. On point.
That was
point.
pure comedy. And had y'all, I don't know about y'all, but I had never heard the term hive parroting before
Oh, I've
tonight.
heard
I haven't.
Yeah.
Had you heard it?
It's new. I feel like it's a new one.
It was probably on
Yeah.
Goop or something.
You guys are
Yeah.
very,
Gwyneth Paltrow
very
cooked
relevant.
them.
I know you said it was a little bit ago now filming, but all of the references, that's what I love in particular, are so, even with the Most Hated Bachelor, I was like, that is so
You're like,
good.
so
like,
right now,
it's
yeah.
so right on. I hate saying it's so on brand, but like all the yes and just like the little phrases, they really make it for me. It's so funny.
Good. That makes you happy.
Lorraine is in the chat room. I love Lorraine. Lorraine is all up in it to win it. Thank you,
Hey,
girl.
Lorraine.
Lorraine's like, she says that they play zip, zap, zop all the way from the green room to the Glade, and it's the best. And she said they also point at random objects and name them. Like, she would be doing the advanced version because
Yeah,
we
I
were just
think
pointing at
so.
people, but that's
She
pure
might
comedy.
win. She might win that
Well,
game.
she's totally won that. I'm like, ooh, okay. And so now Lee has told Maggie, the queen, has told her that they have to infuse a little alcohol because they need to sell some more tickets, and she's like, I'm so not having that.
So undignified.
So he was like, she was like the queen's tea, and she was trying to make her case about, the little girls like to come and have tea with the queen, and he's like, look at it as like a royal night out, and she's like, what are we going to call it? The Queen's Pub Crawl, and that's exactly what it ended up being called.
It looked fun.
It did look fun.
I would pay $60 for it.
They paid $60 for it.
I would do it too.
But what was it?
pricey?
When they said $60, I'm like, damn, that's a lot of
You
money.
just have to drink your $60.
I was
Yeah,
about to
but
say,
it
they
includes
did
the
get
drinks,
it.
know.
Yes.
But what I found telling in that moment is this is the first moment I think that the queen actually admitted that she don't care for women that much. Because she called them haters.
I
just
know.
be
Am I wrong in that? That was the first time she
I think
did that.
you're right. I think she sort of was on the bruised end of probably some friendships in New York City, where it can be sort of competitive and brutal. And I think she realized that she was sort of on her own, and that's why she retreated to the Ren Fair. I know. And then she sort of keeps her queenly distance and is afraid to dabble in too many female friendships. But
I love that you're so connected with the character. I almost feel like I saw her just now a little
Because
bit
you
coming
did.
out.
You
Yeah.
did see her
Working
come
too.
out.
We're
She
working
popped
too.
out. She popped out for a second.
I love it.
She did. She popped out for a second.
Come out anytime.
Who was it? I mean, who was it that said that? What character was? And this, I love this too. These references, most of them I love because it reminds me of something in my childhood. So there was somebody that talked about cutting their widow's peak or shaping up their widow's
Oh,
peak.
yes,
You know,
Narrating.
narrating.
Yes.
And you said I'm looking like Count Chocula. I hollered because I don't even think they sell Count Chocula.
I don't think they're. I was going to say, I don't even know if they sell. They must still sell Nair. Nair will be here forever.
Nair is
When we're all dead, there will be
I
cockroaches.
feel like everyone's
Yes.
tried that at some point.
But when
Yes.
you said that,
Guilty.
I hollered. I'm like, oh, she's got jokes. And then so now you're at the fair and you've succumbed to this thing about the alcohol and everything. And when they said chug your horniness, I'm like,
You're like, this is going to go south.
I'm like, this is gonna go real bad, real quick.
So, especially since she's used to her little martinis. She's not used to booze on booze followed by sangria.
Yeah, which I
It's
have
when you
to
mix
pay-
it.
Yeah, don't mix.
No mixing.
I mean, so I've heard,
Oh, right, just friendly
Girl,
about that.
it's too late to make that disclaimer. It's already gone down south. You can't even try to fix that.
Fine.
And then she put her hand down like, no.
I have to pay you a compliment though because your acting, playing kind of a drunk queen, is very believable. There are a lot of actors who they play the drunk character, and you can just tell that they're like, I'm drunk, and you're like, oops, I'm falling. But it's believable with you. And because you keep your accent, plus you're slurring a little bit, and I mean, it's just
I would agree with that. I would
I've
agree
had
with
a
that.
Remarkable.
tiny bit of experience.
I feel like even with actors with experience,
Yes, you're right. It doesn't always, right.
Yeah, I would say this is an art, and you have mastered
thank
it.
you. Well, thank you.
Can I just have to share with you, because, honey, Miss Lorraine Ruth Rosenberg in the chat room, she is all here for you.
Give that girl a crown.
She's all here for you. And she says, fun fact, we one time did a joint rehearsal with the Queen's Court and Pub Crawl, and we had a full parade screaming cheers for the Queen and Leper King. And it was the best day of my life. She said, I am forever calling drunk ladies spirited wenches.
I agree.
Yes!
I want a t-shirt.
Spirited
Spirited
wench.
wench.
I'm not
Yes.
drunk. I'm a spirited wench.
I love it.
I think
I love
we
it.
might have to
I
make
kinda
some
like
of those.
that.
I'm kind of
Yeah.
down.
That could
I'm
be a
kind
thing,
of down
guys.
for that.
That's
I'm
a
kinda
squad
down
Can we
goal.
like patent our idea right now though before
Yeah.
they
Consider
Let's write that down.
get in writing?
And I also love that somebody has said, cheers to the Queen and her breast friends. Girl, I'm telling you, the dialogue just makes me holler out loud. And then when she says, what would Daniel Day-Lewis do in this instance? They go retire. I'm like,
Yeah.
No, the writing on the show is outstanding.
And
It's
then I
so
caught
good.
this too. So there was somebody standing there with like a chalkboard, and it said, remember my name, shame. I hollered. Because that's like a direct reference to Remember My Name, Fame, to the Fame movie from the, I'm older than you.
Oh, see, I didn't know that.
I remember
didn't-
it.
Remember my name, Fame. I'm gonna live forever. Yeah, that's
Oh,
it.
I know that song.
Okay, yeah, exactly. So, like I said, I'm older than y'all, so I got that. But moving on through the rest of the show, and then I caught this too. I catch everything, and then they're like, "Oh yeah." So as her friends, so now her friends, Amanda's friends, have shown up at the fair,
Yes.
and we're thinking they're there to support her or come and try to convince her to come home, and we find out later that that's not the truth. But while they're sitting there being disgusted, especially Morgan being disgusted, we see this guy walk by. I'm like, did that guy have a boner? We had to rewind it.
We
did.
rewound.
Yes.
Yes.
100%.
Yes, and he was just like, do, 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 do,
And on purpose, like that was
was
how
amazing.
it was
That is
made.
amazing.
Yes.
But
I
if
have
you
to
weren't
look
looking, you wouldn't
miss
have saw it because
It's a
I
little
saw
Easter egg.
Yeah,
Yes.
I saw him walking, and I
Nice.
thought there
Maybe
has
a
to be.
large Easter
Yes.
egg.
I know you might be a little offended by that one.
It was a large Easter egg. Like it was a little more than medium size. Let's just say
no.
that. But he was walking by, and I'm like, there has to be a reason why this dude is walking by here slowly. So I looked down, and there it was. I'm
That's
like,
amazing. I can't believe I never caught that.
yeah. I
Well,
catch-
and
I
then
catch
Morgan had a
everything.
reaction to it too. She was like, "Oh, what is that?" And I was like, "Yep, that was definitely
That was
intentional."
definitely,
Yes.
And
that
she
was.
was
Well, because
totally-
Morgan's going through this whole thing that we find out about her ex-boss assaulted her, and that's why she is so against everything that's happening to Amanda in this episode. And she's really trying to get Amanda on board with being a feminist, and she's like calling her out about it and how everyone's treated. And it's just this really interesting line where Amanda's like, this is the fair, you can be free to be sexual, and then Morgan's on the other end being like, no, you're being objectified and sexualized. So it's a really fine line that they're addressing about this.
They're having a whole hashtag Me Too moment.
Yeah.
I'm
at the
interested
Renaissance
on your
Fair.
thoughts about this because I do see both sides.
Absolutely. And I know Jamie Dembo, her sort of approach to it is you really can take it either way. It's sort of what you go into the fair for or expecting. And as people who are Rennies will tell you, like, my costume is not consent, right? So just because you're like a bustier, it's for a lot of women, it's a chance to feel sexy and sexual and people who are different shapes from the runway, you know what I mean, to feel sexy and enjoy that, enjoy like mutual flirting. I think it's viewed by people who love the run fair as mutual flirting, and obviously if anyone crosses a line, they cross a line and you take them down. But I understand why someone who is not in a place for that or takes it a different way or has had a different experience just in general would take offense. I mean, it really can go either way, and I think it's up to the person.
It's almost like a comedy show. You walk in and you know you might be insulted,
You might be a
but
little
you
offended, but you might
know
have-
that's supposed to be funny. That's
Yeah.
where you are. But I could see, right, coming from the outside, especially with previous experience, how you might not like that.
Right.
I love
Totally.
that they did write that too because I feel like it complicates the situation so much. Like I never even had thought the way that she was thinking. I was like, oh, it's a Ren fair, like it's a
Right.
fun
It's, like,
little
free and easy,
exactly,
yeah.
and like it's all about turkey legs and
Yes,
like costumes
totally.
and all of that. And I'm like, oh, she's right. I understand why she would think that because I think it's because it's also in like the sort of Elizabethan language where like you don't
Yes.
really process like how it could be
Right.
taken. So I love
Right.
how they like didn't shy away from that and just dove right in and really made it a storyline instead of kind
Yes.
of trying to work their way
And
around
I don't
it.
think they do answer it. Like,
No.
I think
No,
it
they
is sort of
didn't.
up to the viewer to decide.
Going back to the great writing behind this series, I think mixing in the humor and the laughter, and like you said, you wouldn't expect that to be there, but the fact that they do tie in these really serious topics amidst the humor, I think is that perfect balance of getting your message across without making it this dark and, kind of depressing thing.
Completely.
But
Agreed.
this was the thing, and that's a good point. And the way they kind of tied it up and put like a little nice bow on it at the end is when Amanda says that a lot of times we get caught up in our own limitations of what we think we should be, but we should be in the present and be in the now.
I wrote that down. I love
Yeah,
that.
I love that. So I was like, that's how they kind of like tied a nice little bow
Yeah.
on everything. But in line with that questioning, on set for this show, did y'all have like that free kind of like we just gonna go with the flow kind of
Yes.
thing,
It
and
was-
people were just
everyone was just so supportive and loving to one another. It just it didn't even. We never had anything other than total respect, and not in a stiff like I respect you. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Just like a really awesome atmosphere.
It does seem very natural, and I wanted to know like if there's anything that you guys did all together, like either offset or like between takes that made this sort of like family, I think that's what they call it, sort of happened.
It did have a behind the scene, like it was like a family within a fair, like a fair within a fair. It just, like I remember this one night early on in one of the early episodes, we have a big bonfire. I think that was maybe the last episode. And so between takes, we would all go back to the tent and play like Cards Against Humanity and someone had a guitar and someone singing, and you know what I mean? It was very silly and of the spirit of the show.
I love
and
that.
late nights together, and it was warm because we were in Simi Valley. And
I was going to ask, where did you guys shoot this? In Simi Valley?
We had one night that it was, I think, 100 at midnight.
Shut up.
I know.
Well, because you said this filmed last year, so it was in the summertime,
summer.
too.
It was pretty intense. And, I mean, on that crazy hot day, I think during the day,
It was a
bless
hot
our crew,
summer.
they were insane. It was, I think it was like 117 during the day, but no one was in Renaissance. We all were in, like, happened to be shooting civilian
That's good.
scenes that day.
Wow. Oh,
But the
that would have
crew,
been hateful if
that's
y'all were in Renaissance
I know,
clothes.
totally
Yeah.
just like sweat.
I remember last summer was really nasty with the
It
temperature here.
was.
We had some like Las Vegas weather. It was really,
Especially
it was,
the valley. Even the last couple weeks, it's been.
I was gonna say
insane.
this week it was a little ugly. There was
Yeah.
one day where it was like 110. I'm like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, I know.
This is not Las Vegas. What is happening right now?
This is June. We're not even into
You know what I mean?
the
It's
start
like,
of summer.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was
it is
not having
record
it.
breaking. I feel like I heard.
I
Or
was not
feels
having
like
that.
it if not.
And if not,
I'm
I
wrong,
say
it
it
feels
is.
like it.
Yeah. According to me,
I
was
it is.
having-
Did you have days where the costume was you're like, this is too much today? I can't hang.
No, they were great about they would have misting tents for the background actors.
Oh, that's good.
And for us, and it really is the crew who takes the brunt of it because
Oh.
they could do little moments of cooling, but they don't get like scenes off.
And it's a single camera show, right?
yeah, they're amazing.
Yeah.
It's truly amazing crew.
So for you guys listening or watching that don't know what a single camera show is where they literally have one camera but for different angles. And so what they'll do is they'll do everybody's close-ups and then they'll do all the wide shots but it takes forever. Like it can easily be like an 18, 21 hour day.
Right, and sometimes we did have two cameras running, but still it's not like a multicam, right?
Yeah,
it's still a slower
it's not like
coverage.
multicam where you have all these different, like you could do a close up and a wide shot and you can do all these shots at one time. It's not like that. Like you will tape the same scene, like the scene that they did where they were doing the
like
The
pas de
ballet,
deux,
yeah.
yeah the dance moves in
Yeah.
the tent. Like that probably took what, 2 hours?
probably. Yeah.
Yeah, see.
Sort of speaking of that, I was curious because I know you do a lot of things other than just acting too. Like you're a writer, you've produced, and I know Lifetime is great about giving like female directors like a really great shots. I know they did that like on Unreal and a couple of other of their shows.
They're amazing.
Is that something you'd be interested in exploring?
They're great. It's fun. I was just up at Austin at the TV festival, and Tanya Lopez was talking about how Lifetime, a big part of their mission is to give women not just like an acting job, but to give them directing jobs or writing jobs, and that you can have dual tracks, and you don't have to. She said she made a big thing about you don't have to stay in your lane, you know, and I really think they support that and are behind that, and definitely I'm a writer and would at some point probably entertain directing, but I love writing, and I love writing diverse stories and gender balanced stories, and I think that's like a nice home for it, and so that's part of my other mission, my second path mission.
Well, it's like Amanda said, why put those limitations on yourself? Do what you want to
Totally
do.
agree.
You know?
Totally agree.
Well, you wrote 30 Mile, right?
30 Miles from Nowhere, yeah.
30 Miles from Nowhere.
Yeah.
That was, you wrote it and produced it?
Yes.
Okay. And that was probably a beast to do, like all, like coming up with everything, doing like your own production and everything. How was that? Like,
it was amazing. I did it with a producing partner. Like producing solo would be very hard.
Yes.
My friend Kelly Demerit and I both produced it, and we had this mission going in that we were going to have a diverse and a 50% female cast and crew, so in front of and behind the camera, and that's what we had. And it made for we had a no a-hole rule, and so we had a great set,
I like that.
which
I
made it
love
really
that.
nice, and we hope to do more for that reason, just wanting to tell stories that sort of reflect the world around us.
Well, speaking of missions, we have some missions here at AfterBuzz TV, don't we, Taylor?
Yes, we just wanted to say thank you guys so much for being so supportive of AfterBuzz, and for us to continue to grow and keep doing these awesome shows. We need your help. if you're on YouTube right now, hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. And if you're on iTunes, give us a 5-star rating. The other ones don't work. Has to be 5. No matter where you are, leave us a comment so you can get involved in this conversation. We love having you guys in the live chat. I love reading your comments. Like the next morning, it's like my morning newspaper on like Monday morning, seeing what you guys had to say about this episode and this show. Being a part of AfterBuzz has meant so much to all of us, and we truly appreciate you supporting us and doing what we love. Do not forget to tell your friends and keep enjoying our shows.
Yes, well, thank you, Miss Taylor.
Of course.
So, what would you say were your top 3 moments? We already mentioned one of the top 3 moments for the show was the #MeToo moment of the show. But what would you say were your other 2 top moments for this episode, you guys?
I loved Brian and Juan. His name was Juan Andres.
Juan Andres.
Yes, guys.
Oh, that was lovely.
I was so here for it. It was so just like sweet and pure and wholesome, and I loved them so much. And
It was
I ship
so
it.
nerdy.
Okay, I ship it so hard.
It was so nerdy. It was totally like a 7th grade thing, but I was there for all of it. I said that when we were watching it too. What was another moment that you guys would say? Or Shauna, do you remember?
Oh, I mean, I love all of them.
She's like, I love all the moments.
I love that couple.
They're so
I
cute.
love that couple. They're so beautiful.
Are we going to see more of them? Lots more of them, maybe?
She's like, I can't tell you that.
This is Lifetime, y'all.
So, yes.
Not Cinemax, but
She said not Cinemax.
we will enjoy their journey further.
All
Yay.
right.
Yeah,
Well,
they're
then-
amazing.
Well, then there's that. And now, remember at the beginning of the show, I said we would have some moments. So now we're going to pop on over to this millennial moment by my girl, Kelsey.
Yes. All right. We have a millennial moment about medieval facts. So today's fact on the Ren Fair, I'm going to tell you that the largest Ren Fair in the U.S. is in Texas.
Ooh.
I mean, everything's bigger in Texas, right? So it only makes sense. So the Ren Fair is located 55 miles north of Houston in Todd Mission, Texas. I know where Houston's at. I'm going to have to look at a map for Todd Mission. There are over 500 costume performers there and 17 stages. Plus, there are about 500,000 people who attend that fair each year. So, this is signed off by the internet, as to quote this episode.
Love the
Alrighty. And
I
we
guess
have
we're road tripping to Todd Mission.
Yes, we are.
How fun.
And Lorraine in the chat room, my girl Lorraine, she is all in it to win it. She said her favorite moments were when she is wench and Judge Spear. I love those two, Miss Lorraine. They were pure comedy. And now we got some news with Miss Haley J.
We do. So I wanted to kind of talk about.
Wait for your news.
I know.
All right, now
Jumped
hit
the
it.
gun. So Jamie Denbo, she's the Oops, sorry, I'm getting excited. She's a creator, and I thought based on Amanda's relationship, and it starts off with her being cheated on, I thought it was very cool that Jamie, the creator, actually has quite the opposite case for herself. She and her husband have been together for 20 years. They're both writers, they're both in the industry, and what I thought was really great is she said that what makes me and John unique is that we're both sort of at the same level of struggle and success, and maybe always have been. She said, we're definitely always 2 steps forward, 1 step back, sometimes 2 steps back, 1 step forward, but we're always on the same floor near each other on the staircase. It's clear that she's a writer. I mean, come on, who says that?
That was very poetic.
A nice tear.
I
just
love
rolls down my
seeing that this show starts with a broken relationship, yet the writer and creator has such a strong one. So I like to think in my mind that's foreshadowing what we're going to see with Amanda and David. Can I put that energy out there? I want to see that happen. So I thought that was very cool to see such a strong, stable relationship in Hollywood.
Yes,
And
they're
John-
amazing. They're great.
John was in the show too. You saw him. He was the one, the ex.
Yes,
Maggie's
he played
ex.
Maggie's ex-boyfriend.
Oh.
Who he then is like engaged to that little chippy.
Oh, we were
Right?
not having
Well,
that.
I know. I was like,
We were not
well, I
having
know.
that. Did you
Well,
hear what I
like,
said? I
She's
was,
in high-waisted shorts.
I was like, why is she wearing? I was not having that at all. I was like,
know.
oh, she was
Thank
too.
you for having my
Yes,
back.
girl, I got your back.
Appreciate
Oh, look, I'm like, God save the queen.
Yeah.
God save the queen, or
Right
God
back
save the
at
queen.
you.
Can I sneak in another little question that I just have to ask with you producing? Is there any part of when you're in actor mode, is it hard to turn off producer mode? So in the back of your head, are you like, I would have done this differently?
No, oh my God, not even at all. It's such a
Good.
relief because the movie was my first like bigger producing sort of experience. It is so much work. It is like a joy to just
Oh, good. So you
be
can
an actor on
enjoy
the show.
it.
Yeah. I don't even think about it. I'm like, you're on your own.
Tell me what to do. I love
See
it.
if you can make it work.
I know that's right. Well, speaking of making things work, what do we think is going to happen next week? Because as we were coming out of this episode, we found out that Amanda's mom had OD'd, but we knew she wasn't dead because when they showed the trailer, she was sitting there talking. So I was like, that would have been such a downer if she had died, right?
Very different show.
Although, Carla, you said our faces were all
I
so
know.
dramatic.
Our faces were like, what the hell is going on? Why is she dying? That's the prediction.
spooky
we
music.
were like, we're all just like, because we were all very chatty, as you can tell. And when that happened, we were all like, oh. We were like, oh. So we already know that that's going to go down. But what do we think is going to happen once she finds out that her mother's still living?
Okay, I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't want to accuse anyone of anything. I don't know if she actually OD'd. I don't know if it's just a plot
So
for
you
her
think
to
it's
get
fake
her back.
news?
Yes, I kind of do.
I mean,
wouldn't put it past
she
them.
would.
I wouldn't put it past them, you guys. I'm wondering though, since we've seen like some of her friends from like non-Ren Fair friends come into the Ren Fair, I think it would be really fun to see some of her Ren Fair friends like go home with her.
I would love to see Delilah go
I
home
do
with her.
too.
Because Delilah would just read people.
I think it'd be great.
Delilah would just let folk have it with that
She'd be
smile
like,
on her
"Yeah,
face.
Exactly.
She'd be like, We'll talk to Molly about that when she comes, because she's coming over here too.
Yes.
But
Very
yes,
Hollis,
this is what I think is going to happen. I think you're right about that. I also think that we saw a glimpse of Brian and Amanda starting to become friends, because he feels
I
like,
love that.
sorry girl, but he
know.
feels like you were not there for him.
I know. We'll get the magic back.
He felt like you were not there for him, and he was
know.
like, so I'm going to have to reach out to somebody else and give me a new best friend. So I think
know, when
that's going to cause some issues.
The
But
genuine
maybe
guilt
the
on your
queen
face.
can come to that side.
I'm like, what, drinking that rosé without me, just my heart.
Oh, my God.
I think we're going to see more of Amanda come to that face-to-face struggle with her past life and this new life. And I think with this most recent episode, when she learned that her friends only came because her mom sent her, I think that really hurt her. So she's either going to leave once and for all or stay conflicted for a while. But I think we'll dive deeper into those feelings.
Ooh, look at you. You were all deep with that.
I get that
She was-
way.
It was
I
very
do.
psychological, wasn't it?
Last week too.
I can't help
She
it.
was giving me Barbara Walters in that moment. I was like, what is going
The
on?
turtleneck too, and you're just great.
I know,
Deep
yeah.
in it.
All she needed was like a little thing of pearls. I'm
I
like,
wish I
ooh,
could
Miss
say this
Haley.
is like the first time I've done that. I always do this. Always.
Analyze mode. I love it. It's awesome.
So, Miss Seana, what kind of little pearls can you leave with us today, if anything? Could you like give us a little hint about of what's to come? Especially
see.
with the queen.
With the queen.
I love calling you the queen. Like, I'm not feeling calling
Yeah.
you Maggie. That's just way
I
too
know.
pedestrian for me.
I appreciate that. I do know that Amanda starts to sort of throw down in a way that she and Maggie have to, she the queen, sort of, we have to work through some things together. And yes, because Amanda has some ideas for the fair.
Only room
So-
for one queen.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Mm.
So there's
That
a
would
little
be
throwing
interesting.
down.
Love that.
Ooh, it's
so
going to be a girl
excited.
fight. I'm there for
Yeah.
all of it. What? I am there for all of that. I was so excited to know that you were coming here because I love your character so much. I love you on this show so much. I really, really enjoy you. Jamie and Gingy were so right on the money in casting you. I don't know who else was up for the part, and honestly, I don't really care.
This one's mine.
Because
you can have the other ones.
because it was your gig to have, honey. It was your
Yes.
gig to lose, and you did not lose it.
thank
You got
you,
it, and you
right.
wear it out every week, and we are so
Yes.
grateful for it.
Thank you so
And your
happy
eyes
to
are
be here.
popping. I'm always staring, not to be weirdo, but I'm like, your eyes are so pretty and blue, and that
But they're
costume
just
brings
like
it out.
White Walker
Yeah.
lenses.
Oh,
I'm like,
okay.
this is my Game of Thrones lenses.
What
I
else
love
do
they're
you
like a
have-
soft brown.
What else do you have coming up? Because I know you guys have already wrapped American
We have
Princess.
wrapped.
So what
I
else
visit
are you doing?
I visit Claus for a few
right,
episodes.
Claus, yeah. And that's my other
this
favorite
season.
girl. I told you, I was telling her before we got on the air, I love me some Claus and some Niecy Nash. That is my show.
Those ladies are and the men, because I'm married to one of them. They're good too. But they're amazing. They're They're some
Can you
amazing.
give us any hints about what you're doing over at Claus? And Claus is on TNT, by the way. Okay, so next.
I try and date one of the gentlemen on that show.
Oh, you're just a hoe everywhere you go.
I just need to get. I got something because I'm married. I got 2 kids, so I take it where I can.
You do have some fun characters. I feel like this is
I
a
do.
fun show to
Totally.
be on. Good atmosphere.
Oh my gosh, totally. Both. Yeah, they're both like festive, supportive, happy sets.
Just going to work today.
Just
in
go,
the
exactly.
Renaissance
It
Fair.
is not always. Usually, I'm like the victim's mother, or like
Not the victim's mother.
got like raped in the back alley. I'm gonna cry for an hour
Switch it up a
now.
little bit today. But that builds and speaks on your experience. You have all these dynamic roles, and it's only making you better. Clearly, you're killing it.
Thank you very much.
You really
Ebbs
are
and flows,
killing it.
but it's nice. Yeah.
So again, thank you so much for
Thank you
coming.
for having
Where can
me.
people find you on social media if they want to reach out and holler at the queen?
Holla at the Queen, Seana Kofoed on Instagram and Twitter.
Cool.
Yeah.
Got it. And Kofoed is spelled Kofoed. Yes.
Yes, nicely done.
why
It's a
I'm
little
a
Danish.
That's why
I think
Carla is Carla.
And where can we find you, ladies? Let's start with Taylor.
Yeah, you guys can find me on Twitter at @alphabet_Ann and on Instagram at Taylor_Gates_.
And I have the best on
have
Instagram
it in
and
here now.
Twitter at HeyJ_.
And I'm Kelsey Hightower, and you can find me at Kels Hightower. I like to keep it simple. All over on Twitter and Instagram.
She could barely get her handle out because she was cracking up so hard. I am your host, Carla Renata. You can find me across all social media platforms at The Curvy Critic. You can also find me right before this, a couple of hours before this, over at AfterBuzz on the GH Report, or the General Hospital After Show, as we like to call it. And then at 5 o'clock, you can find me at Black Hollywood Live with my very own movie review show, The Curvy Critic with Carla Renata, at Black Hollywood Live, 5 p.m. on Sundays. So, until the next time, you guys, thank you again, Miss Seana Kofoed.
Yes, thank you. And hail the queen. Hail the queen.
God save the queen!
God save the queen.
And until the next time, y'all ready?
Yes.
Huzzah!
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.